Should we bring in the closer?
I think it'd be a good time for that.
All right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Free Baseball Podcast presented by the Athletes Hub. As always, I am Davis Bird, and I'm joined by, for the second week in a row, the mustachioed marvel, Jake Crumpler. I can't even say your name right. Too distracted by the excellent Tash. We're just going to rush right into it and talk baseball because that's what we always do, even though it is a milestone episode for us, number 75, 25 more till the big 100. And it feels like somebody that may hit 100 home runs is our first Hot Weeks hitter, and it's Royce Lewis because the Grand Slam King himself is hitting 333 since September 13th. Also got a 484 on base, slugging 708, 5 runs scored, 3 home runs, 8 RBIs. Got a steal in there, 0.6 what's he up to in the past week? Like 15 Grand Slams in the last 12 games or whatever, because it feels like the pace was absolutely insane for him.
Yeah, I actually have some stats on that because he was doing such crazy stuff. One of the most hype prospects when he was first drafted number 1 overall back in 2017, a guy that's dealt with tons of injuries throughout his career. He's torn his ACL twice in the past 3 years. So he's come a long way to be where he is now. He's currently dealing with an injury that might keep him out of the playoffs as well. So definitely an interesting start to his career, but he also is the Grand Slam King. He set the record for the shortest span of games in which a player has hit 4+ Grand Slams. The second most was Don Mattingly in 1987 with 39 games. What do you think Royce Lewis did it in?
So you said it was 39 games?
Mm-hmm.
16.
18.
I was really close.
Yeah, he blew the record out of the water. He also became the fastest player to 5 career Grand Slams. And he did it in I forget how many games it was. I don't have it on my phone anymore. It was 60 something games or 70 something games. And then the previous record was 180 something. He is just the Grand Slam King, and he did it all in about a span of a month, which is pretty wild. But yeah, I mean, even outside of that, just really great plate discipline, hitting the ball all over the yard, power speed guy. The talent is clearly there whenever he does play, but the thing is keeping him on the field, and that's been really difficult even during his time in the minors. And like I said, already dealing with an injury that may keep him out of the playoffs. Is just a guy that's, I mean, it's really hard not to draw the parallels to Byron Buxton, because not only former number 1 overall pick, but also a Twins guy, also a guy with all of the tools that just could not stay healthy. So hopefully Royce Lewis has a different trajectory to his career, because Buxton has sort of finally stayed healthy this year, but really hasn't been good. So maybe Lewis has some more potential. He's still really young. I think he's still only 24. But definitely disappointing how many injuries he's had, but at least he'll be in the record books forever, because there's no way someone's hitting 4 Grand Slams in 18 games again.
Definitely. It feels like the Twins are full of a lot of these guys that can't stay on the field, and sort of the post-type prospect guys, sort of like Royce Lewis, because he was their top prospect at one point, correct?
Sure.
I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah.
But getting those guys to stay around, because that team is super exciting. I know we did our playoff predictions, and they're the team that I predicted to win the Central and be the one that sort of sneaks into the playoffs. I also thought the Guardians were going to be a lot better, which is not accurate, but you win some, you lose some. I expected the Twins to be good, and they're going to probably win that division sort of by happenstance, but I was kind of hoping that they would have a lot of their big guys like Gallo, Royce Lewis, and Byron Buxton sort of firing on all cylinders for the playoffs, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. But I digress. We can talk about second guy, which is Sawyer Gipson-Long, who made a start against the Angels on the 16th. Went 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned, 3 walks, monstrous, 11 Ks, even more monstrous, 23 whiffs, good for a 45% called strikes plus whiff percentage. Anytime you're over 30, really good. Anytime you're close to 50, what's going on here? Tell us about it, Jake. You're muted.
Thank you. Not really a prospect anybody really knew about before he came up. MLB Pipeline had him rated as the 19th best prospect in the Tiger system. So that's pretty low for a prospect to be rated, but he had a pretty successful debut. This was just his second start, and he really showed what he was capable of. Nick Pollock, my boss at Pitcher List, compared him to Logan Webb, as he's like a sinker changeup slider guy. Uh, so usually that's more of a guy that pitches to contact, gets a lot of ground balls, but can be effective pitch deep into ball games. It's usually a pretty good trio of pitches, especially if they're all average or better. But he clearly showed that his ceiling might be even higher than Webb's. Webb has had games where he strikes out double-digit batters, but to do so in 5 innings in your second career start is wild. Of course, there's the caveat that it came against the Angels, which have an incredibly depleted offense. It is so bad right now, but still 23 whiffs is 23 whiffs and 45% CSW is pretty incredible, especially for a starter in their second career start. But yeah, I think this is one of those guys that maybe prospect guys may have missed because so far he's been very impressive across 2 games. And the thing with whiffs and CSW is you can't really fake that, like that's
Mhm.
legit stuff. Sometimes you can have nights where you are really good, but 23 whiffs is another level. 45% CSW, really great. And the fact that he has 3 pitches he can trust is good for the future for him. But I think this is definitely an interesting guy. We'll see what kind of look he gets next year. I mean, he's already 25. It's crazy how little success he had in the minors compared to these first 2 starts in the majors. But we'll see if this one start was a fluke or if this is just telling of the kind of competitor that he is.
Definitely. If they can sort of keep him going, they have a couple decent little pieces for that rotation. Obviously, with Erod deciding to stay there, Turkey Scooball, and then now you got Sawyer Gibson Long, and hope Casey Mize can sort of figure it out. I think we've all been sort of waiting for the Tigers to figure it out, and I feel like they've gotten better as the season's gone on, but they've been really bad. Hopefully, he can be a huge piece for them going forward. I do think you're right, and like this is a one that it seems like they missed. 3-pitch guy. He's made 2 starts now, and he's still still 2 starts, but the underlying statistics are still very good for him. So it figures to continue. But yeah, it's a really good start to life in the majors for Sawyer Gibson Long. With the Tigers, we can talk about our players of the week, and it finally feels like 2 guys that we haven't got to talk about in a long time. So from the week of the 16th on the AL side, we have Rafael Devers of the Boston Red Sox, and on the NL, have Juan Soto leading the charge for the sort of perennially disappointing San Diego Padres.
Yeah, we can start off with Devers. I think he's had a pretty disappointing season, but now with this hot week, he's sort of turned things around and looks just in line with the past couple of years of his career, the full seasons of his career. He's actually a guy who now has a 130 WRC plus in each of his last 4 full seasons. If you don't count 2020, since 2019, he's had a 130 WRC plus or better. And this year he's at exactly 130, but it's taken a pretty solid second half run. He's been sort of up and down throughout the season, pretty inconsistent, but now that he's had this hot week, he's right in line with what he's done in the past. And once again, I think he's a pretty underrated hitter. Like, he is one of the best hitters in the league, but you don't really see that because he sort of does the same thing every year and then doesn't really show up in the WAR numbers. I mean, he's been solid in WAR in the past. He was 6.7 more in 2019, over 4 WAR in the last 2 years, and right now at 3.5, which is very solid. Definitely like all-star level, but not somebody that's like in the MVP conversation because he doesn't bring a good glove to the table. He has had 1 season where his defensive WAR was above average, but every single year he brings the stick, batting 277 this year. He's up to 33 home runs now, really hot in the last week. And despite his efforts, I don't think the Red Sox are going to make the playoffs, but this is definitely a centerpiece guy. And that's why they signed him to the 10-year, $313 million contract they signed him to.
Yeah, know how big a fan you are of him. He was your first ever. No, he was not, because that was Judge. He was your second pick.
Second,
right?
That's right.
He was your second pick in the fantasy draft. But yeah, Rafael Devers is one that sort of does get overlooked. Rafi Big Scoops, as Jared Carabas would like to call him. Yeah, he does sort of get host in this, and it feels like he's a guy that's also he's been around forever, but he's still insanely young. He's 26. Yeah. He's been up since he's 20. It feels like he's definitely gotten a lot better every year. He's walking almost 10% of the time, striking out almost a career low. I think 2019 was his career best year at 17%. He's at like 19, which is not that much of a change. It's good to see him sort of succeeding. The Red Sox, unfortunately, have been around 500, which is not really going to get you into the playoffs in that division because it's been so really it's been so good top to bottom. Apart from the Yankees, they sort of floundered. But it's a shame that we're not going to see Rafael Devers play in postseason because he's a great hitter and a clutch hitter too. Also good personality. He's a good guy. He reminds me a lot of Jose Ramirez in a way. A guy that seems to really love the game and enjoy just being out there and playing. So I'm a big fan of Rafael Devers.
That's so racist.
How? I hate Jake Crumpler. On the other side, we have Juan Soto, who is doing Juan Soto things finally, despite the huge news coming out that the Padres are a complete mess, top to bottom, from The Athletic. But Juan Soto's like, anyway, I'm going to figure out how to hit this whole baseball thing again at the best of my ability over the last week.
I just got it. Oh my gosh. I said he's a pitcher, and then I realized what she was saying.
Do you have the meme?
Where's the meme?
The deep fried meme.
Of
you made the deep fried meme because I had Julio Urias on my fantasy team, and it was
yes.
whoever made it, and it's like Julio Urias just beat your team.
Oh my gosh, maybe I do.
Probably. I'll see if I can't find it.
I'm scrolling. No, I think I don't think I put the ones that he created at the beginning of the season.
Anyway,
yeah. No.
Anyway,
I made a meme of him a long time ago. He looks like the guy from and I don't feel bad saying this now because he's a terrible person twice. He looks like the guy from Avatar, the firebender guy.
Kind of does.
With the eye.
Oh yeah, Zuko.
Yeah.
I found it. I'll send it to you.
I'm too lazy to put it in. Show your phone.
What a bum. I gotta find it again. I gotta scroll through Twitter.
Well,
it's so deep fried because of the glare. It says, "Are you my wife?" Because I just beat you.
Yes.
Yeah. We all hate Julio Urias over here.
But yeah, we can talk about Juan Soto though. This is a guy who's a generational talent, still only 24, has already over 150 home runs for his career. He's already been worth almost 28 FWAR, which is wild because he sucks in the field. He's just an incredible hitter. A WRC plus of at least 140 every single season for his career. He's at 151 this year. And there was a point when Padres fans were saying how disappointing he was. I think maybe last year he didn't have the average and the power numbers that you would expect from a guy that everyone was predicting to earn well over $300 million when he hits free agency after next season. He was under 4 WAR last year because he was a terrible defender. But this year, I think he's become more aggressive at the plate. He's striking out a little more, but that's allowed him to make more contact. It's allowed him to hit for power. He's stealing more than ever, too. He's at 11 steals. His career high is 12. He's also up to 32 home runs, just 2 shy of his career high there as well. Just another incredible season from Juan Soto. I don't know if Padres fans really appreciate what he's been doing because I think despite how bad he is in the field, he is an incredible hitter, one of the best we've seen all time, and he's still only 24. It's crazy what he does, still walking more than he's striking out, and he's just super fun to watch. And when he's on fire like this, it feels like it's impossible to get him out because if he's not hitting a home run or hitting a single, he's walking, and then he's getting on base at like 700 clips, and it's ridiculous what kind of stuff he can do. But yeah, I love how Juan Soto plays the game, and it's been fun to see him on fire this last week.
Definitely. I think it remains to be seen how the Padres sort of approach whatever they have going on. If you have not read the Athletic report in that article about how it's sort of like a complete disaster with them right now. Juan Soto didn't hear it, so he's been kind of carrying their offense over the last week. But yeah, very deserved players of the week there. And we can talk about some more records and milestones. Also very deserved. For most likely future NL Cy Young winner, Blake Snell. He becomes the first pitcher with 160 strikeouts and under 20 runs allowed in a 20-game span, which makes him the only pitcher to do so across multiple seasons, besides the illustrious Pedro Martinez.
During one of like the hottest streaks ever by a pitcher.
Oh, yeah.
Pedro across 1999 and 2000 might have been the most dominant pitcher ever. And Snell just did something that even he never did. Just an incredible run since May 25th. He has a 1.26 ERA in 22 starts, comes with 179 strikeouts and 129 innings. I think that that strikeout per nine has got to, or that K percentage has got to be off the chart. Doing the math in my head, 34.8% strikeout rate, basically 35% strikeout rate, a sub 1.3 whip across 22 starts. I mean, just absolutely bonkers what he's been doing. I actually did just see a stat that he would have the fewest innings ever by a National League Cy Young Award winner after the sixth inning. He has like 7.
Yeah, I think they showed that stat during his no-hit bid yesterday, and it even was like, oh yeah, he went 7 innings. I think he was at like 98 pitches, sounds about right, and they basically just made the decision to pull him. I think he's thrown 7. It's either 7 or 8 innings after the 6th inning at all, or like the 7th inning at all the entire year.
Three after the 6th inning.
That's outrageous, man.
And the lowest since 2008 was Corbin Burns with 11 in 2021, and that was like one of those years where, oh man, this guy doesn't throw a lot of innings. That's crazy. 3 after the 6th inning. But I mean, when you're this effective, I really don't think it matters how many innings you've thrown after the 6th inning. If you're not going to be effective, I mean, that's just like, Snell's like the face of the guy that gets taken out after 6 innings with a no-hitter. You know, that's just like the thing that they've done with him for his entire career. And it's about to net him his 2nd Cy Young Award. And I think he'd become one of like 3 players ever to win a Cy Young in both leagues, which is crazy because he's never going to throw 200 innings in his career. And he's just had a couple years where when he does pitch, he's super effective. I also saw a stat that was really wild where he is better in starts where he walks at least 4 guys, or maybe it's 3 guys, but it was like his ERA was better in starts where he walked at least 3 guys than it was when he walked less than 3 guys, which is crazy. That doesn't make any sense, but this is definitely the antithesis is the opposite of what I'm trying to say. This is the thesis of the type of guy that you're looking for to go for stuff is greater than command, right? Because he just goes in there, he throws his fastball up in the zone and then just has 3 breakers that he can trust. And it just always works from what we see, especially in the second half, but just the extended run that he's been on is wild. I think during this 22 start run, he has not given up more than 3 runs at all. He's never had a start of less than 5 innings, and he's only given up 3 runs twice. He's also been scoreless in like 11, half of those starts is ridiculous. And also that comes with a stretch of 4 straight starts where he had double-digit strikeouts, and he's had double-digit strikeouts 6 times in this 22 start span. Just an all-time run for Blake Snell, and I think it's going to win him Cy Young, especially now that Justin Steele is washed.
Well, Justin Steele had a bad start in the last one. He's also not having a good one against the Pirates right now. Blake Snell also gets to join a very cool little list. He talked about ones that have won it in both leagues. He would actually be the 6th. He would join Randy Johnson, Gaylord Perry, Pedro Martinez, who we've already talked about, Roger Clemens, and Roy Halladay to win it in both leagues. He's also
Pedro won in both leagues?
Mm-hmm, sure did.
I thought he only won with Boston. Did he win with Expos?
I feel like he won one with the Expos.
Huh.
Yeah, let me look that up. I'm pretty sure he did. It was on the thing. But he won it where? Montreal, 97. Last year Montreal. Blake Snell is the first pitcher with 225 or more strikeouts, 95 or more walks, and a sub 2.5 ERA since Nolan Ryan in 1972, which is a very Blake Snell and Nolan Ryan stat because both of them
they're such opposite pitchers.
Yeah, they are in a way because Blake Snell won't throw very many innings. Nolan Ryan literally threw until his arm exploded. So yeah, but still walk everybody, strike out everybody. Sort of like the same general pitches theme, both big fastball, curveball guys, even though Blake Snell doesn't throw with the velocity. He kind of throws it up in the zone, as Jake's boss would like to put it, the Blake Snell blueprint. Right. Fastball's up, curveball's down, breaking stuff down, whatever. But yeah, it's pretty cool. He's definitely going to win it now. I think it's sort of done and dusted. Yeah. just like the AL or just like not the AL Cy Young, just like the AL MVP is Shohei Ohtani. Even though he's done for the season, he finished with a monstrous 10 F4. Pretty
I think it's
crazy.
B-War. He's at
10
9
B-War.
F4.
9 F4, still outrageous. That's the most in baseball still, regardless, for F4. I think Mookie's second with like 8.2 or something like that. He's done. So he's got 10 B-War. His 135 games played are the fewest played in a 10-WAR season in AL or NL history, except for full-time pitchers. Historic season again from Shohei Ohtani. Definitely has it wrapped up, even though he didn't play basically all of September and is not going to play any of October.
Yeah, ridiculous. 44 home runs, 20 stolen bases, 179 WRC plus, batting 304, 6.6 F4 on the offensive end, which that's a ridiculous season on the offensive end. And then, he also pitched 132 innings with a 3.14 ERA, 2.4 F4 as a pitcher, 1.06 whip, 31.5% strikeout rate. I mean, yeah, this offseason is going to be so tricky.
I still think he's going to get $8 kajillion.
It's just going to come with all those caveats, with all the like options and the escalators and everything, where it's not going to be like before he got injured, it would just be like, here's $600 million over 10 years, like take it or leave it. And now it's going to be like, okay, we'll give you like $40 million next year, or we'll give you like $30 million next year. And then if you're able to come back as a pitcher, then it like goes up, or you can opt out after the first year, or you can opt out after the second year, just like random shit like that, where it's really up to him whether or not he hits free agency again. And there's also not too much risk for the buying team.
Definitely. Before I go on Ohtani, I have to correct myself because I forgot one list to add to the name of double league Cy Young winners. It's the most recent one, Max Scherzer. Yeah, forgot to say him, but yeah, Shohei Ohtani. I mean, it's very deserved MVP, and do you think the offseason situation is going to be difficult because he is obviously going to deal with the UCL injury, but it's still. I mean, he has the track record. I think any team that signs him may not even put in all these like escalators and stuff. There might be a team that is willing to just risk it and
that's
just
what I was thinking.
Give him a fully guaranteed contract. And it sort of would pay off, not even just with like the thing about Ohtani that's crazy too, is not only is he the best baseball player the earth has ever seen. I mean, he prints money. He literally, if whatever team gets him, you have the entire Japanese market because he's the biggest superstar player they've had realistically since Ichiro. So like he's like a god for them, and honestly for us too, because he's just so good at baseball and all.
Because we're dweebs and we love anime.
Baseball nerd or not, you love Shohei Ohtani for what he does.
I agree with that point. I think there might be a team that's just, hey, we'll still give you the 600 mil. We have confidence that we can get you back to full health and keep you healthy as a pitcher, and we're willing to take that risk because of all of the other positives you mentioned. And also, like, even if he isn't able to pitch or isn't able to pitch at that same level, he'll still be otherworldly valuable and is just an incredible hitter by himself. Like, I still think he's like a $300+ million hitter by himself. That like, if he was a pitcher, if you just think of like the pitcher that he is, a 20 whatever year old pitcher who's coming off who's going into Tommy John surgery in the off season, like this is a guy that would usually get like a 2-year deal, right? Like the 1 year and an option where it's like a 1 year recovery deal, and then the second year is a club option. So maybe it will be something like that, but I definitely could see a team being like, you know what? No, we're going to take the discount here and go for it all, because we'll be able to blow all the other teams out of the water that are scared, and just take the chance. And I am sort of scared that that's the Dodgers.
It probably could, but you can even look at like a contract sort of in the same vein as like a Carlos Rodon, who struggled with like a lot of injury and then sort of finally put it together for like a 1.5-year stretch, because even with the Giants, he sort of still battled injury for most of that season.
And that's like $180 million pitcher.
Yeah, he got like 162 with like, and that's like his base salary. I think there's like more bonuses and stuff baked in there. So that's like, it is like 180 to like $200 million contract that you're giving a pitcher over 6 years just for him, just to be a pitcher. And Ohtani is better than him as a pitcher. So you have that, and then you have the $300 to $350 million hitter attached to that. That's in his 20s. He's going to get.
Did you see Stephen A. Smith?
No, no, I didn't. What did he do?
He was basically being like, Otani doesn't deserve a lot of money. He's the reason why the Angels suck.
Stephen A. Smith doesn't watch baseball, and he's an idiot. So,
He is so stupid when he talks
like,
about baseball.
Stephen A. Smith is good for entertainment, and
Entertaining.
then
Yep.
if you ask, he's actually a pretty good with basketball. But like,
Yes.
we're not talking
He is an
basketball,
idiot
we're
when it
talking
comes to
baseball.
baseball. Honestly, all the guys on ESPN are so stupid when it comes to
Yeah,
baseball.
most of the old heads that talk baseball are dumb. Like Stephen A. Smith, Mad Dog, Chris Russo, all those guys don't
Oh,
know.
that guy's supposed to be a baseball guy, and he's just
He's an idiot. He doesn't know
bonkers.
what's going
Max
on. So,
Kellerman, did you hear him? Well, I think
well,
no, it was a
Max
different guy.
Kellerman,
It was a different guy.
Kellerman's not that bad.
No. I was thinking of some other white guy, but he was talking about how like, like I wouldn't like trade draft picks for Shohei or whatever. Like, how many draft picks do you think?
That's Colin Cowherd.
Fuck, why would he ever talk about baseball?
Colin Cowherd has admittedly said that he doesn't watch a lot of the games he actually talks about on his radio show.
Do not talk about baseball.
And he just has his team brief him. You can't trade draft picks in baseball. Dummy.
You cannot.
But anyway, I digress. Otani, excellent. It's going to be a difficult question for him. And it's also a difficult conversation to have about this next person, because in any other year, I think him and another guy, Matt Olson, would be pretty deserving MVP candidates. And John Heyman said the same. Also, Freddie Freeman, he becomes the first player in MLB history with 25 plus home runs, 55 plus doubles, and 20 steals in a season. He's like what, a 34-year-old first baseman, 20 steals, 55 doubles, 25 home runs. Pretty crazy. It's a shame that he's doing it in a year where there's two guys that have been complete aliens to the sport are just duking it out for MVP, and they're sort of leaving him in the dust, even though like this has maybe been his best career, like his best season in his career.
It is by F4. He just keeps getting better, which is crazy because he was so good for the first 10 years of his career or whatever, 12 years of his career. And then now gets into his age 32 and 33 seasons with the Dodgers, and he's put up the first 7 F4 seasons of his career, which is wild because he won an MVP in 2020. Obviously couldn't have reached 7 more that year. That would have been wild, but he was 6.6 F4 in 2016. But yeah, just crazy what he's been doing. The power numbers aren't off the charts, but for a slow first baseman at 33 years old to steal 20 bases, that's crazy by itself. But the guy's also batting .336. He's got a 164 WRC plus. I mean, he's a first baseman. To be a first baseman getting 7.3 F4, that's wild because that's all offense. You get such a massive decrease to your defensive WAR because first base is really low on the defensive ladder. But yeah, just crazy what he's been doing this year. I think the doubles are the craziest part because obviously the whole package is great. Like solid power, solid to above average power, like very surprising speed. Because last year he set a career high with 13, and now he's gonna he's already blown that out of the water. But batting .336, that would be a career high over a full season. This guy's 33, but the craziest thing is the doubles. With 56 doubles right now, he is very close to setting all kinds of records. The most doubles, we've gone over this, the most doubles since 2000 are 58 by Nick Castellanos. The most doubles since 1936 is 59 by Todd Helton. So if Freddie Freeman, who has, what day is it? The 20th, he's got like 11 more days to hit 4 more doubles, and that would set the record for the most since World War II, which is basically when I start considering baseball to be real. I mean, if like Jackie Robinson hasn't played yet, I mean, what can you really consider to be a true record? But yeah, I mean, just the amount of doubles he's had is crazy. This guy's gonna go into the Hall of Fame so easily, first ballot. He's nearing 58 F4. But yeah, an incredible season that's being overshadowed by some other bonker seasons, even from his own teammate and former teammate.
Yeah, I think if he sets like 60 doubles, that would be like the second or third most by a first baseman in history. Also, even if you go back to like the numbers that are from like 1901 and stuff with like Earl Webb, I think Earl Webb's the all-time leader, and he said it like 1931. I think George Burns has 64. So like, I mean, that's still attainable-ish. Like if he just goes on a complete tear, which Freddie Freeman is more than capable of doing. He's been one of the hottest hitters in baseball this year, but it is an absolutely insane record. Actually, it would be besting if he beats Todd Helton, another first baseman there, which would be pretty cool. Yeah, it's a shame that Ronald Acuna Jr. and Mookie Betts are really sort of running away with the MVP debate, because in any other year, it feels like this is Freddie Freeman's to lose because he's just been that good. In the last 2 years, he's sort of been kind of shunted out of the conversation, which really sucks.
What did you
But
say?
shunted?
Oh, I thought you said chunted. I was like, I don't think that's a word.
Shut up.
What'd you call me?
Anyway, we talked about Ronald Acuna Jr. plenty. We can talk about him again because he just recorded his 12th game with a home run and a steal this season. That ties perennially underrated Bobby Bonds 1973 for the second most in a season since 1900, like Jake said, before baseball was real. And then Ricky Henderson is the only one that had more when he had 13 in 86.
Yeah, just the maybe the greatest power speed season we've ever seen. It was already wild when he was at 30-60. The guy is about to get 40-70. He is 3 steals shy of 70 steals. He's 1 home run shy of 40 home runs. The 40 home runs, I think, are in the bag. This is a guy that can steal 3 bases just in one game. So I am very confident that he's going to do that. He's walking the same amount that he's striking out. I mean, just the steps that he's taken forward just as a hitter in the plate discipline department, I think are overshadowed by how incredible of a season he's having. 138 runs, 100 RBI. He's batting .338. He's got a 171 WRC plus, and that comes with 7.7 FWAR. Just a bonkers season. I really think if he gets 40-70, it's just like really hard to give the award to Mookie just because like, I mean, obviously the defensive stuff, but 40-70 is so legendary. I feel like I'm right now on the Aaron Judge side of the conversation last year, where it was just like, oh, look at the overall value of Shohei versus like this record setting year. But I don't know. I feel like Ronald would have a good case of rivaling Judge's season last year. I mean, the WAR isn't there. Judge was a much better defender, but just the stuff he's doing, like with the home run and the steals, are wild. 40-70 is unheard of. There have been so few 40-40 seasons, and 40-70 is just wild. We haven't seen 70 stolen bases since I don't even know, probably like 2004 or something. Yeah, Scott Podsednik stole 70 in 2004. Did I really just choose the right year just out of nowhere? I think that might be it. And that's just 70 stolen bases. That was a guy that hit no home runs, and this guy's hitting 40. Just absolutely insane, like unheard of, like almost incomprehensible what he's doing.
Definitely. I think he's also sort of peeling away with it anyway, just because Mookie's sort of cooled off this month. He was nuclear hot in August, but so far through September, he hasn't been as good. It's obviously hard to keep up that pace because it was a historic pace. But through September, he's hitting like 245, which is not great. And then he's actually sort of stagnated around like 8.1, 8.2 FWAR.
You're talking about Mookie?
Yeah, I'm talking about Mookie. Ronald's actually up to 7.7. The last time we had this conversation, he was about 0.4 FWAR behind where he's at now. So he's going to catch him probably in FWAR, which would be insane anyway, just because all of his is baked into him being a hitter because he's a terrible defender. So I think it is Ronald's to lose unless he just completely doesn't do anything the rest of the month and Mookie gets hot again. I think it's probably done and dusted here that it's Ronald's. But it's been like literally it's a super historic season. Obviously, that's why we're talking about it with these milestones. And
correction on the steals. Jacoby Ellsbury stole 70 in 2009.
Shout out to that guy. He played a lot of baseball.
For a little bit.
Yeah, we can talk about more history being made by Ronald Acuna Jr.'s teammate, and this is Spencer Strider setting the record for most strikeouts in a pitcher's first 50 career starts. He has 435. That seems like outlandish. Like those are the numbers you get on like an MLB The Show starter when you do like a player career.
Yeah, seeing that made me reflect on his rookie season when he didn't win Rookie of the Year because of Michael Harris. And I remember sort of being on both sides of the coin there, being like, I think it should be Strider, but I think Michael Harris will win, but I think it's really close. I really don't think it should have been that close. I mean, the stuff Strider was doing as a rookie was something we've never seen before in the strikeout department. And obviously Michael Harris, incredible defender, power speed guy, had a really, really great season, having another great season this year. But what Strider doing is another level, and I just really maybe could be the best strikeout pitcher of all time. It's wild how many strikeouts he's probably going to have through the first 10 years of his career, and how he's going to have to play for like 20 more years after that to catch Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Going back and looking at it, I'm literally looking at his Fangraphs page. Last year, he put up 4.9 F4 in like 45 less innings. He's like 0.4 F4 off of what he's at now, and he didn't win Rookie of the Year with like 202 strikeouts in 131 innings. Is crazy. Yeah, he's insanely good. I have him on my fantasy team, so I'm a pretty big fan of him. He's been doing the thing for me. Yeah, Spencer Strider, he's excellent. Got the mustache. Awesome look for a pitcher. Strikes out literally everybody.
I should be a pitcher.
Yeah, mustache guy. Big mustache guy. Yeah, Spencer Strider. Hopefully he can continue this pace because it's just been outlandish so far. It almost feels like a fake number to look at 435 strikeouts through 50 starts.
Yeah.
Another one to look at. We talked about rookie of the year snub, Spencer Strider. This guy definitely not going to get it. I think he has it sewn up. Corbin Carroll, first rookie ever, 25 home runs, 50 steals. We talked about Ronald going 40-70. Corbin Carroll, rookie season, 25-50, pretty nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wild. I mean, definitely being overshadowed by some great seasons, but it's sort of like, because of how good he's being compared against the NL MVP guys rather than the rest of the rookie class. And it's because he set himself so far apart from the rest of the rookie class that it's like, we sort of forget that he's a rookie. He's an incredible power speed guy. It's also like, we're sort of jaded is the wrong word, but we're sort of gotten used to like these guys coming up and having incredible rookie season since Mike Trout did it. And then we had the whole, since I think like Mike Trout sort of kicked it off, but ever since we had the Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna year, every single year there's like a huge rookie that comes out that's just sets the world on fire and just shows like that the young players are really able to play at like 21 because they're such special talents. We've seen guys like Julio, Vladdy, Ari Perez, even as a starter, and just tons of guys like that come up immediately at a super young age and are just ultra talented, and then they just have tons of success. So when we see a guy like Corbin Carroll, who we expected big things from, who had a great September last year when he got a short call up, you sort of like expect somebody to be like this. And then when they do that, it's like they're living up to expectations. So it doesn't really surprise you as much, but I think that allows us to forget just how incredible some of these guys are. I mean, we saw Julio last month just go absolutely off. We've seen Ronald Acuna morph into one of the best players in baseball, having one of the best seasons of all time. We've seen Juan Soto win player of the week, Vladdy Jr. Doing what he does. And then now Corbin Carroll sort of stands out amongst those, mostly because he's white, but just an incredible season that he's having because the stolen bases are wild. He's fast AF, and then he's also able to hit for a decent amount of power. But yeah, 25-50 is good in its own right, and to do so as a rookie is really impressive.
Yeah, I think it goes to show that like it's been such a crazy season all over the board everywhere else that Corbin Carroll started out the season so hot, and then it feels like everyone else just sort of stopped talking about him. It's like, okay, Corbin Carroll is good. We're moving on. We sort of expected this.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh yeah, here's a record, 25 home runs, 50 steals. Chance to get like really if he goes off, chance to get 30, 50, pretty
What's
crazy.
He at right now?
26 maybe. I don't know.
I'm out. I got you. Give me like 3 seconds. 1, 2, 50 stolen bases and 25 home runs. He's literally exactly there. I don't think he's going to do 30-50. I mean, there's like 11 days in the season left, but
he'll do it. Might as well.
Okay. Put some money on it.
If he plays the Cubs again, he'd hit 7 probably. But yeah, it feels like it's kind of shitty to say. It's like, oh yeah, he's good. Let's just not talk about it anymore. This season's ridiculous. He's a rookie. He's put up what? 5 F4 set a rookie record. Like, okay, sure, whatever. Anyway, go on. Mm-hmm. That sucks, but still very impressive for him. We'll give him his flowers. Talk about him now, which is good. and everyone will talk about him again when he wins NL Rookie of the Year in a couple months, which is going to be really cool for that. Stuff to talk about that is not cool. I think we're going to do this next segment. We talked about it before the show. Talk about every team's biggest disappointment. And for a few teams, sort of pretty obvious. How do you want to start this off?
I have pulled up Fangraphs roster resource. I think that's the best way to look at depth charts. So if you're a baseball nerd like me, that's like probably the website that you use the most, and not even just Fangraphs as a whole, but the depth charts. I'm on there so much. I think we should just go alphabetically how they have it, just an easy way to go. So it'll be alphabetical through the American League, then alphabetical through the National League, and then sort of just give a guy each. Maybe we can agree so that this doesn't take another hour and a half for 41 minutes in, because we talked about Shohei for 20 minutes. But I think there's room for lots of options, whether it be a young guy that didn't quite live up to the hype that his prospect potential gave him, or a veteran that sort of set a high bar and didn't really reach that, or maybe a dude that got injured, or even a trade acquisition that didn't really provide the boost that you thought he would.
Okay, so you want to start with
the Orioles.
The Orioles, okay.
Yeah. This team is difficult to choose because they've overperformed so much. This was a team that was disappointing in how their front office performed, and now they're sort of at the point where it's like, oh, they've gotten all these contributions from guys that you wouldn't have expected, and also sort of have done what you would have expected in the rotation. Like, it's sort of like, you can't be like, oh, I mean, Dean Kramer's a bad example, or like, I don't know, sure, Kyle Gibson. You can't be like, oh, like Kyle Gibson's been disappointing because he's been Kyle Gibson and they signed him and he was supposed to be their ace or whatever. And even somebody like Grayson Rodriguez, I think, fits that better, where it's like, he first came up and it was like really disappointing, but like, this guy's a 23-year-old starting pitcher. You can't really blame him for sort of sucking when he first came up, and then he's completely flipped the script in the second half. So it's sort of like, he's not really disappointing anymore, especially when you look at the team as a whole. So for me, I think the most disappointing is Jack Flaherty, not a guy that's been on the team the whole year, but a guy that they acquired at the deadline. He was supposed to be the guy to fill in that rotation and really make it something that could be a strength, where otherwise it's been the weakness all year. And it looked like that was going to be the case when he first landed in Baltimore, because his first couple of starts there were really successful. His velocity was back up, and it really looked like, oh, the Orioles have once again fixed another pitcher, and they really made a smart decision here to not only not go super ham in the offseason by filling in that rotation, but also choosing the right guy. And now he has been moved back to the bullpen, which I don't know if he's ever pitched out of the bullpen, but this guy is now in the bullpen, and I'm sure he could still be effective out of the bullpen. But for a team that was really counting on him, for a team that had a clear weakness in the rotation, and for a team that's supposed to be known for, you know, picking up guys like that. I mean, even Jack Flaherty by himself, I think, is a really big disappointment this season, if you include his Cardinals days. But I'm going to go with Jack Flaherty.
Okay, if you're going to go with Jack Flaherty, I'm going to try to pick someone different, just so we have not agreeing all the time. And based off of his hot start to the month, and then the rest of the season that followed, Jorge Mateo, I think, is one of their big disappointments, because they had him and he looked like a big piece last year. He started off so well, and then after that hot start, he's been probably one of the top 5 worst hitters in baseball. He's been absolutely miserable. He went from like, I think at the start of the season, he was at like 1 point something F4 after the first month, and he's dropped to like 0.4. He's not been as good as a fielder either.
Who did you say? What? I don't know why I didn't hear
it. Jorge Mateo.
Oh, that's right.
It's probably my pick for them, just because he sort of led everyone on with the start to the season, and then just decided that he can't play baseball anymore. Started out March and April with a 347 average, really good, hit 6 home runs. He has 8 the rest of the season, and he is yet to eclipse like an average in a month of like over 240. He's striking out like a ton. He's not hitting the ball hard anymore. He's just more or less forgot how to play baseball for them. And that's been a big hole in the lineup that they've sort of had to plug now, which luckily they have a cajillion prospects to fix that. But Jorge Mateo looked like a big piece of their roster and just decided he can't play baseball anymore. So I'll go with Jorge Mateo just to keep things different.
All right. And then now we'll go to the Red Sox, and I think we'll switch off going first. So you'll do two in
Okay.
a row every time.
All right. So let me pull them up. I'm not using roster resource. I'm using their leaderboards. My God, I'm just drawing a blank right now. You can get to their roster. So I think a big part of this Red Sox team that has not really been good as a whole has sort of been their pitching, which has not really been going too hot for them. And to a certain degree, I would want to say that it's maybe Chris Sale, but I'm not going to go with that either. Let's maybe go with Kike, because Kike was easily the worst hitter on their team when they had him. They paid him the pretty decent sized contract, expecting him to be a utility guy that can play every single day, and he put up almost -2 F4 with them in like half a season, which is
wild.
which is embarrassing. And they ended up trading him to the Dodgers, who now he looks like kind of a baseball player again. Still not great, but I'll go with Kike just to start it off there. Chris Sale hasn't really thrown enough for them, I think. And I think a lot of that contract is starting to look sort of bad outside of the World Series year, because it's almost like in a Strasburg way, because he's not pitching enough. He's not playing enough baseball. But I'll go with Kike Hernandez just because he was the worst hitter in baseball when he was there.
Yeah, I'm sort of waffling between a couple guys right now. I think Trevor Story is sort of there, but a lot of it can be blamed on like him being injured. But this was a guy that was supposed to be a big acquisition for the team when they got him from the Rockies, and then he got injured last year, Tommy John surgery, and he returned pretty late this year. He's only played 35 games, but I think it would have made a big difference if he came over and he, was all right, I mean, at least like a league average hitter. The guy's got a 30 WRC plus. He's hit 2 home runs. He's batting 177. Trevor Story, a really big disappointment there. He's got time to turn it around. He can be with the club through 2028 if everything is exercised, but not starting off well. And I think Garrett Whitlock, is a one there that should be considered as well. This was a guy that has been one of the best relief pitchers on that team since coming over in the Rule 5 draft prior to 2021. And then he started to pitch out of the rotation last year, and he did so this year, but he's really fallen back. And I can't tell if that's because of injuries, because he has dealt with injuries, or if it's because of his role changing to pitching out of the rotation more often. But the guy's got a 5.19 ERA in 67 innings and just not great. And while it's definitely been a little bit unlucky, his xFIP is 3.78. Definitely disappointing, because he was supposed to be a guy that they counted on in the rotation, that made the rotation deep and allowed them to not go super ham on acquiring a bunch of guys in the rotation. But yeah, I think Garrett Whitlock and Trevor Story are probably the biggest disappointments there for me. And then we'll go to the White Sox next. Let me change the thing so that people can follow along. White Sox, they might just be one of the most disappointing teams, probably the most disappointing team in the American League. There can be some debates, but I feel like it's super clear who the biggest disappointment is here. But there is some debates. I think Dylan Cease is one that's clear, but that was one that I expected. I think it's Tim Anderson. That guy sucks. That guy is so bad. He's got 1 home run all year. He hasn't been doing anything. And to top it all off, the cherry on the top of the ice cream sundae of being a terrible baseball player in 2023, the man got knocked the F out. And that might have been his biggest highlight. But yeah, just an awful season from Tim Anderson. He was supposed to be the guy at the top of the lineup at shortstop, sort of keeping that team together. And once again, he's done what he always does, sort of get injured. And I mean, he usually isn't this bad, but he was really, really bad this year.
Definitely. And since you went with Tim Anderson, who is the easy answer, like he's so bad. I'm going to go with another guy that was sort of expected to be the big guy here for the White Sox a while ago. I'm going to go with Yohan Moncada, who his fall from grace is honestly should be studied at length, because this is a guy that got drafted as like a 5-tool player, and now he doesn't really have any tools.
Yeah, just like imagine Jason Dominguez like sucking in like 3 years.
Yeah. The big problem with Yohan Moncada, he's a Babbitt fiend. So now that the Babbitt like is not really helping him, he had like the 1 year that like made him look really, really good. Not really happening. It's also a walk year for him, and he's putting up 0.9 F4, which he did last year in more games. But he's also striking out almost 30% of the time. He's only walking 5% of the time. Power numbers way down, not hitting for power. Have you also seen that according to StatCast sprint speed, he's like one of the 3 slowest players in baseball?
How? That guy used
I
to be
don't
so
I
fast.
don't know. Yeah, he used to be able like a flyer, and now he's one of the slowest players in baseball, which is
Mhm.
crazy to me. Tim Anderson has been very bad. I wanted to also maybe pick Mike Clevenger just because he's been an ineffective pitcher,
He's
and that
been good.
guy's well, he's been sort of
Well, if you
like
look at ERA,
he's
he's
been
been good.
he's been mid, and he's an asshole. So I
Oh,
don't like that guy.
that's fair. I mean, then
So
he didn't
yeah,
disappoint us in that department.
yeah. So I'm gonna go with Yohan Moncada
Yeah.
here, and since I've got to do another one back to back, I think there's two that I could say, and I think there's one that's pretty obvious. Um, and since I feel like you may take the one I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about one that makes them look kind of stupid. I'm going to talk about Aaron Savali. Aaron
Wow.
Savali has to be a pretty big disappointment for them because they just gave him away. They gave him away to the Tampa Bay Rays. He put up 1.6 F4, sort of looked like a Chad innings eater, maybe like a little bit lower than that tier.
Yeah, Kyle Manzardo, bro.
Yeah, well, Kyle Manzardo has been fine, but he's a prospect. So I'm not going to try to down like prospects that have only been up for a certain amount of time because he got traded at the deadline. He hasn't been up for an awful amount of time. Obviously, has not been that good. Um, also, but they traded Savali to Tampa, The dude is nails in Tampa, and everyone saw it coming. Everyone saw it coming because
Yeah.
they turned Zach Eflin into an ace. It's like, oh yeah, Aaron
Mhm.
Savali's a stud now. Okay, this guy couldn't do shit in Cleveland. Wonderful. I feel like I already know your answer, and I want to hear it. So how about you tell me now?
Honestly, I'm surprised that you went with Savale because there are a lot of choices here.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
you
feel
could
like
even
this is a
make the
big one
case.
though.
I mean, you could make the case that Jose Ramirez is one of them because he hasn't been like MVP level like he's been the last few years. You could make the case for someone like Andres Jimenez, who
Mhm.
has expectedly enough fallen off. But there's even like multiple guys in the rotation. You could say Lucas Giolito because he's been terrible ever since leaving the Angels, but he hasn't been with the team that long. And
Mhm.
I think honestly that still leaves 3 guys that are like difficult for me to choose between, and they're all pitchers. And it's Shane Bieber, who I think that's the clear one.
That's what I
There's
thought you were gonna
Cal
pick.
Quantrill, your guy.
Yeah,
Um, Cal
he's so
Quantrill
bad he's
is
good.
bad. And
He's so
then,
bad
but
he's good.
I think even Emmanuel Clase, who was like considered the best reliever in baseball once Edwin Diaz went down,
Mhm.
and he has really actually not been, despite leading baseball in saves. But I think Shane Bieber's the clear one here. Not only did he fall off in a lot of different departments, and which everyone expected last year because his velocity fell like 2 miles an hour. He was like 94 miles per hour in 2020, and now he's at like 91 and a half. That's a steep drop off, 2.5 miles per hour. And the strikeouts went down, but because he has really good stuff and a really good slider, he was able to survive, and he has good command as well. But this year, fallen apart really. 3.77 ERA isn't awful, but it's definitely been his worst since his rookie year in 2018. His strikeouts have fallen precipitously down below 20%, which this is a guy that was like a 33% guy in 2021 and over 40% when he won the Cy Young in 2020. And then on top of all of that, he's also been injured for a significant amount of the season. He's only thrown 117 innings, made 19 starts. That's a pretty significant guy to lose. And while the Guardians can't really blame their whole season on Shane Bieber, I think it is pretty clear that he might be the team's biggest disappointment. And we'll go to the Tigers next. And for me, this team, I think, was disappointing in general, but after last season's disappointment, I think it was pretty expected. And they didn't really have a lot of guys that you expected a lot out of. Um, but there have been some interesting seasons. I think for me, it's really hard to pick on this team because there's so many guys that are not big names.
Mhm.
And for me, I think that leads me to going with Javi Baez because he is one of the bigger names on the team. And obviously it was pretty clear that like as he got older his skills would decline and like he would become a different player and probably the strikeouts would catch up to him, but he's become a guy who strikes out less than he has ever had in his entire career. He's down to 23% after being a guy who was like 29% entering this season. And I mean last year was a disappointment when he batted 238 with 17 home runs, 9 steals, and was worth 1.9 WAR. This year's 0.7 WAR, 59 WRC plus. He's got just 9 home runs and 12 steals. He's batting 217. I mean, just an awful player. He just chases too much, and somehow he's making contact now when he chases, which might be worse. Like it might be better if he's like chasing out of the zone, but whiffing because it allows him to make contact on a better pitch. But you just throw a slider down and away and he's going to miss. He's going to swing and at it every single time. And it's really disappointing because like his defense is still there, but the offense is just so bad. To be 0.7 F4 as like an above average defensive shortstop is pretty crazy how bad of a hitter he's become. But yeah, definitely a disappointing season because I think a lot of people expected him to bounce back after last year, and it just has not been there.
I'm gonna go like a sort of different route with this because I feel like they've been an underperforming team. I wanted to try to pick like a disappointing pitcher, but their pitching staff's been like one of the lone like sort of decent spots about their team. I'm gonna go in a sort of different route. My biggest disappointment with the Tigers is that we didn't get to see Austin Meadows this year. Austin Meadows got shut down. He's not going to be able to play this year. Obviously, he's been out away struggling with his mental health, and it honestly is looking sort of like we might not see him for a while, which is sort of disappointing. He is when he's hitting well. He's a very exciting hitter, DH type. Plus, he would have got to share the same team with his younger brother, Parker, which would have been a cool story to have 2 brothers on the same team, actually hitting maybe like round one after another, which would be really cool. Hopefully, Austin Meadows can get the help that he needs so we can see him again. That's my biggest disappointment with them is that we just didn't get to see Austin Meadows because of him battling his own demons that he needs to deal with. So try to leave it there. Other than that, I mean, in terms of performance, it obviously is Javier Baez just because he's the one guy they've signed to a lot of money and he's not performing in the slightest. Yeah, he sucks, which sucks for me as a Cubs fan because I want to see Javi do well. But yeah, that guy not very good at baseball. We'll follow up with what team?
Astros.
Tough to find guys here.
I don't know. I feel like there's some pretty solid ones.
Yeah, let me find who I want to talk about.
If you
yeah,
we're improving.
Oh yeah. The biggest disappointment here, specifically to me, because I drafted him on a fantasy team, and that guy is ass, is Jose Abreu, which everyone sort of saw coming in a way because he's 36, 37. He sort of struggled in terms of the power numbers last year, and the decline, like the warning signs were there. They let Yuli Gurriel go, who has also been bad. So it's not like the biggest like losses or replacement. But they gave him like a multi-year deal. Like I think they signed him until he's 40. He has like a 4-year deal. And he's been atrocious. I think he's hitting like 236. He's been one of the worst hitters in their lineup consistently. Didn't it take him like a month to hit his first home run?
Yeah. He's up to 16 now, though.
He's a right-handed hitter with the he's a right-handed hitter with the Crawford boxes. He's posted an 83 WRC plus as the first baseman that they've, he's got a 20. They pay him almost $20 million a year, and he's a dog shit hitter where he should not be bad. He's like the one real big hole in their lineup for me. So I'm going to go with Jose Abreu. Partially because I'm still mad at him because I wasted a draft pick on him in the fantasy draft and he sucked.
I think that leaves another like really big one. I think Jeremy Pena can sort of be considered that, but like sophomore slump, he just really set the bar really high in the playoffs last year. But I think the clear one for me is Christian Javier. This was a guy that basically everybody was in on in the offseason, basically touting him as the guy, the clear like wide awake dark horse sleeper to win the Cy Young. After posting a 2.54 ERA last year and striking out 33% of batters, 4.74 ERA, 5.31 xFIP. He's got a 22% strikeout rate. He went from one of the most promising pitchers last year in baseball as a 25-year-old to the next year, like honestly being like bad. like not a good pitcher, which is crazy because I don't know what changed in his stuff. I've not done a deep dive on him. This is somebody that I'm sure will be studied incessantly in the offseason because this is a guy that may be able to give you a discount this year, and just crazy because the amount of hype that he produced, because he was good in his first 2 years, he just took it to another level last year, but just the amount of hype that he incited in the fantasy baseball community and in Astros fans in general, I think really made this a disappointing season for a guy that many thought could win the Cy Young, and then he went out and was actually bad. And then go ahead.
I think another one that I would like to mention on the Astros is their front office for looking like an idiot and actually having to give up prospects to get Justin Verlander, who they let walk out of the door for free. That's also pretty disappointing for them because you just traded prospects and you're still paying him. Idiot.
Yeah. Stupid. All right, next we'll go to the Royals, which I might consider, I mean, there's like, if we're just going teams, there are like 4 teams that I consider to be like really disappointing. One of them, the A's, you can't really like say they're disappointing because they're trying to be. But then there's like the White Sox and Padres, who were teams that had tons of hype. I think the Padres personally are more disappointing than the White Sox. The White Sox are just like more of a dumpster fire than the Padres. The Padres is just like, it's hard to figure out why they're so bad, but the White Sox are just like a dumpster fire. And it's just like, it's like fireworks, like really bad fireworks, where you're just like, you can see it, you see everything. It's really loud. And you're just like, what is going on? But the Royals, they were not trying to be bad like the A's, and they have been just as bad as the A's. There's lots of guys that you can go with here. I mean, their whole rotation was terrible. Their bullpen is pretty awful. And then their lineup just has had lots of injuries and guys just not being there. I think for me, the clear one is MJ Melendez. This is a guy that probably not a lot of people know, but this is a guy that led the minor leagues in home runs in 2021. He had 41 home runs in the minor leagues in 2021 as a 22-year-old. He's a catcher too. So that's what made it so crazy. And then last year he debuted and he was very solid, 98 WRC plus as a catcher, not a great defender. So they moved him to the outfield and that was really interesting, but I still thought his bat would play. He's got clear big power and he doesn't strike out too much. He's a good walker. And then this year, just really not good with the bat. The WRC plus has fallen only 7 points down to 91, but I thought he might take a bigger step, not being held back by being a catcher, having to be behind the plate every day or often, just allow him to go play in the outfield. And the bat just has not been there. Only 15 home runs, in more games than last year. So the power has not been there. And, he's striking out more often, walking less. I mean, this could be a sophomore slump. I think this is a guy that could break out next year. I think everything's still there. The recipe's still there. The recipe for success. He's got a higher barrel rate this year, a higher hard hit rate. He's underperforming in StatCast, but definitely disappointing for a guy that I thought would break out and be one of the better power hitters in general in baseball, but also like in fantasy, a guy that had catcher eligibility that would be really good.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to do like a weird one here. And I'm just going to give my biggest disappointment to them is literally every homegrown pitcher that they have.
Just
because,
them.
Just them in general. So if you look at their rotation, outside of Cole Reagan's is terrible. It's just been awful. Like Brady Singer leading the charge, also a guy I drafted in fantasy. He sucks. He sucks, and he just can't get anybody out. They've had struggles with Chris Bubich, who is now injured. Also, Alec Marsh has been injured. They had another guy the only other guy that really did anything for their rotation in the very brief time he was there is Ryan Yarbrough, who no longer pitches for them. Scott Barlow slumped like crazy to start the season, almost lost the closer job, and then got traded. Like, they have nobody. Like everyone that they have developed as a pitcher is awful. You could even make a case for Vinny Pasquantino, who was sort of like, he got hurt early, but he was still like, he's a first baseman that wasn't really hitting either. He walked a lot, didn't strike out, but he wasn't hitting for much power. Posted whopping 0.0 FWAR and then got hurt and ended the season. Really the only real bright spots on their team have been like Michael Garcia and Bobby Witt Jr. And Bobby Witt Jr., very unfortunately, putting up a really good season, and it's on the 50-win Royals, so nobody has noticed, which really sucks. So yeah, the entire homegrown pitching staff at all from the Royals is who I'm disappointed in. Next up on our list, we have the Angels, and another one you could say the exact same thing for them. The Angels, it's so tough to pick one because like the clear ones, like that aren't disappointments, are like Otani and Trout. I think the biggest disappointment again here, maybe I would say like Patrick Sandoval, who like you talked about Christian Javier being like a wide awake sleeper. I think Patrick Sandoval was another one that was primed to be like, okay, this guy's a potential budding ace for their staff, and then he's been extremely mid. He's just been extremely mid all season and hasn't really taken the leap that anyone sort of expected him.
You could say the same about like Reed Detmer. Sorry to cut you off.
Reed Detmer's
too. The same boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, I'll probably even make the same argument here for the Angels as I did the Royals. Their homegrown pitching development has been bad, and that's sort of a theme with them for a long time. Is that they can develop hitters, and their lineups have been decent, even despite like the clear holes, like in the past few years, like Pujols sort of eating up a spot. Rendon not really playing baseball is sort of one to talk about. But Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, their lineup was decent this year up until the last like month or so when the injuries have taken their toll and they sort of slumped. Their pitching has been consistently bad the entire like time they've had Mike Trout.
Yeah. I mean, you could even throw Tyler Anderson in there because that was like one of their big offseason acquisitions. He's got a 5.43 ERA.
Yeah. Yeah. Like their pitching staff in general is ass, is probably what I would say. Outside of like Estevez, who was good to start and then sort of fell back down to earth in recent months.
Yeah, he was an all-star though. I can't.
Yeah, really I'm not like that's what I'm saying. I'm like he was the one really good like pitcher they had that was more or less an Angels guy.
I think for me, I think it is like that rotation is very disappointing. There's lots of guys you can point to, but for me, it's Anthony Rendon again for like the third year in a row. Another season marred by injuries. He's going to play the fewest games in a season as an Angel. And this guy started his career there in 2020, but it's just wild because he's been injured every year that it's wild that this is the one that he was injured the most. And it's honestly the year that he's might've been the worst. There's a comparison for 2021. His WRC plus is just 1% better there. And his F4 is just 0.1 better there as well. So those are comparable years, but this is a one where it's similar to the Royal or the White Sox, where he is just so outspoken about how he does not give a shit anymore. Like he just does not give a fuck about baseball. He's not trying to be there. He's an asshole to all the like,
he's been a total jerk.
He did that thing where he like assaulted a fan too.
Yeah. I forgot about that. That feels like it was years ago.
It does. I think that was this year.
It was earlier this year. He grabbed it by the shirt and cussed him out.
But yeah, he's been really bad when he has played. He has not been on the field, and it's just not a guy that's really been able to be counted upon. And I mean, at this point, like you shouldn't be disappointed by what he's doing, but there was still a little bit of hope that, maybe he just needs to stay healthy for a year. And maybe this will be the year after basically 2 lost years. He'll get back on track and he just doesn't care. And he does not want to be there. And it's really disappointing. Yeah,
definitely.
Quick point. I think we should save the NL for next week because we are like halfway through the American League right now.
That's fine.
And then I get Minnesota now, and I don't know. The Twins are interesting. I'm stalling while I write their name in to post there. I don't know. Because I think for me, one name comes to mind immediately, and it's Byron Buxton. I mean, you got guys on the team that you can consider to be disappointing. I won't mention them in case you want to, but I'll go Byron Buxton. This was a guy that signed a big extension with escalators on like where he landed in MVP voting. And finally it looked like he was going to be healthy for a season. I did not realize how long he's been injured, but I mean, this is a guy that's played over 100 games in his career just once in 2017, and every single year since then under 100 games, usually less than 90 games. This year he's at 85 games. And the craziest part is that they DH'd him the whole year so that he wouldn't get injured, which was disappointing in its own right. Cause this is a guy that gets so much of his value from being just an exciting center fielder that just makes incredible plays out in the outfield because he's so fast and he is able to track balls that are completely out of anybody else's reach, and he is willing to leave his body out on the field. But they took him out of that, and now that takes away like more like 75% of his game is that, and then he also then just sucked at hitting after that. He 98 WRC plus this year. This is his first sub 100 WRC plus in a season since 2018. That year he was -2, but 17 home runs this year, 9 steals. He's an all or nothing player at the plate, and it works when he's adding value defensively, because even when he's playing like 90 games, 60 games, he's still like a 4 F4 guy, which is bonkers. But when he's just a DH, he's only playing 85 games and he's a sub league average hitter. It's really disappointing. Like, he's just a guy that really is not valuable on the team. 0.7 F4 this year.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to preface the one that I'm going to pick by talking about a different player first. Okay. I originally was like, okay, who has been really bad that I sort of had high hopes for on the Twins? And I immediately went, I was like, I saw you pick Bucks, and I'm like, okay, I got to pick someone else. I was going to talk about Jose Miranda, because he was supposed to be like their corner infielder, hit for like a lot of power last year, looked pretty good, looked like a guy primed for a breakout, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Until I realized that I was forgetting about someone pretty important. And I think that's I really think it's exactly why he's been such a big disappointment. Carlos Correa. Carlos Correa has been so bad that at points this year, I have forgotten that he even plays for the Twins. Yeah. He's got a 96 WRC plus, and he's probably been like, because Bogarts has sort of been decent. Dansby Swanson for a while was the best shortstop of that class. Trey Turner has sort of picked it up. Carlos Correa, despite signing one of the bigger contracts and having all of that like saga with the ankle and the foot or whatever it was, in the offseason, he's been the worst shortstop of this group. His hitting has definitely regressed. He's got a 96 WRC plus. He's worth 1 WAR, and he's played a large amount of the season. It's not like he's been injured again. He's got 135 games that he's played. He's been out for like a lot of this month, but he's coming off the back of 140 WRC plus, and then he posts a 96 WRC plus for a Twins team that like is going to be one of the worst division winners in a long time. Carlos Correa sucks. And it's a really unfortunate for the Twins, because it seems like a lot of their guys that they're signing to these big contracts, and this is a smaller market team, so it's not a team that will be readily be able to do this all the time. Both of their guys that they have signed to these huge deals have sucked majorly, like in a huge way. And that's unfortunate, but I have to go with Carlos Correa for that reason.
All right. You're up on the next one. It's the Yankees.
Oh, wow.
And this might be the team with the most disappointments.
Isaiah, join the thing so we can talk. I feel like I wanted to talk like Judge, because Judge has gotten hurt, but the other big bopper, Giancarlo Stanton, regressing to one of the worst players in baseball, is sort of rough. I mean, he's still hitting the ball hard. He's potentially the slowest player in baseball, and it's honestly painful to watch that dude sort of lumber around the bases. It looks like it's not great. Giancarlo Stanton, it's a guy that they're still on the hook to pay. Like, what is he making? Almost like $40 million a year. Like, he makes an insane amount of money. He has a no trade clause. Even if anybody, for whatever reason, was going to try to take on that contract, even if the Yankees were going to agree to like eat pretty much all the money, I mean, he could just say no. He's 33, and it feels like his career has hit the death knell in a way. And it's very unfortunate to see a guy like this that looked like one of the best sluggers of the generation, and still sort of is. But he was a guy like a genuine chance to maybe hit 600 home runs. And now it's like he's 33. His body's basically shot. So I would go with Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, I could beat him in a race easily.
I know I could.
Yeah, I mean, you could go with Aaron Judge here. I mean, you could go with DJ LeMahieu. There's a lot of guys here that would be disappointments on other teams. But I think it's the whole rotation. This is another one where it's a whole rotation thing. Outside of Garrett Cole and the guys that have been healthy, Clark Schmidt and Michael King, it's like Carlos Rodon, massive disappointment, huge contract this offseason, was injured for most of the season and has not been great when he has pitched. It's a 5.90 ERA for him. And then basically everyone else too. Nestor Cortez just barely pitched this year. When he did pitch, wasn't great. Frankie Montas out the entire season. Luis Severino injured, and also when he did pitch was just the worst pitcher in baseball. It's crazy that there was a point when they signed Carlos Rodon that you looked at that rotation of 5 guys and you were like, this could be one of the best rotations of all time, with Garrett Cole, who's a perennial Cy Young candidate, and Carlos Rodon, who was in that boat the last couple of years, Nestor Cortez, who was an all-star last year, Frankie Montas, who's been great in the past, and same with Luis Severino. Just having a 5 deep like that, it seemed unstoppable. And the fact that literally only one of those guys was good this year is wild, because they've really been awful. But yeah, I think that one's pretty clear for me, that rotation has been super disappointing. And then we'll go to the A's, and this one might be really difficult because that was their plan this year, was to be disappointing. So you can't really be like, oh man, freaking Seth Brown was really disappointing this year because he wasn't an all-star. So I think you have to look at it from a different perspective and think about where they did try, right? Because you're not going to be like, oh, this guy who was around on the team before and was just like a replacement level guy, and now they're relying on him to be an everyday guy. You can't really say that. You can say a guy like Paul Blackburn, who was pitching above his means last year and is now a bad pitcher after being an all-star last year. Can't really blame him. I'm going to Ledmus Diaz. This was like one of their big offseason signings, and he's just so bad. Like, they haven't even played him every day because he's not that good. 103 games. He's got a 73 WRC plus, the worst of his career. He's worth negative 0.4 F4. And this is on a team where it's like, if you are even replacement level, you are going to have an everyday role, and he has been unable to maintain that because he just cannot hit. And the fact that they actually gave him money in the offseason, a 2-year deal, $14.5 million, and he's just been sub replacement level. Like, it's wild that they missed that hard on someone like him.
Yeah, another one of their offseason signings that I think I want to talk about is Trevor May, signed to be the closer. Almost lost the closer job at one point because he was so bad. And they didn't, like, he was another rental reliever. I don't think they even traded him. I don't think they got anything for him. Right? Like, he's still on the A's.
Trevor May?
Yeah.
Yes.
I say he's still on the A's. Like, he's still on the A's. He almost lost the closer job because he was that bad at one point. They didn't trade him, so they basically just signed a reliever to be mid/bad because he's worth like negative 1 F4. He hasn't been very good. Obviously, he's not going to get very many saves. It's the Athletics. Like, they've won like 52 games, something like that. So, like, yeah, there was no point in this signing. Then you signed a rental reliever to just hang out, be like, hey guys, I'm here now. It's me, Trevor May. I stream
52,
sometimes.
That's nice of you. 46.
46. I was confusing them with the Royals. The Royals blowing them out of the water. They're 52 wins. Yeah, I would go with Trevor May. They just sort of blew it with the offseason signing. What was the other guy that they got? Jace Peterson. They traded him.
At least they traded him.
They traded him. Like,
they couldn't even trade the other guys. Nobody wanted the other guys.
Just unreal, man. But second team after the Oakland Athletics to talk about is the Seattle Mariners. And I think this is a team that has been up and down, more or less. And at one point, you could probably say that this was Julio Rodriguez, except for his extremely hot month that sort of got him back in the conversation. I think the biggest disappointment here is that they didn't get Robbie Ray this season. That rotation would have been really good if Robbie Ray had been part of this, and he got hurt literally like right when the season started. He threw like an inning, like something like that, 2 innings, and then he
had one game. I think it was a few innings. But yeah,
he made 1 start and he was done for the year. This rotation could have been like competing, like you said. The Yankees had the chance to have the best rotation like in the American League. The Mariners had just as easily a chance with Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Brian Woos really stepped in, Bryce Miller, and then Robbie Ray adding that on top of that. That rotation would have been really good. And I think they're now challenging sort of in the AL West, but a little bit too far, too little, too late, sort of trying to settle for a wild card. But yeah, I think if Robbie Ray's here, maybe we're talking a different story.
Yeah, and that leaves very little choices because this team has been surprisingly not disappointing. I mean, like Jared Kelenic maybe didn't have that breakout we thought he did, but he's been much better, and it's really hard to knock him for what he's done. And even Teoscar Hernandez was sort of in that territory, but he's turned it around a lot in the second half, and now is not a guy that you look at as disappointing. So I think that leaves Eugenio Suarez, who has really improved defensively, and that's made up for a lot of how he's fallen off at the plate. But this is a guy 102 WRC plus this year. The power has not really been there. 21 home runs is solid, but this is a guy who is supposed to make up for everything that he lacks in the average and the swing and miss and the defensive department by hitting 30 bombs or more. He has not been there at all. And thank God for them that he was able to figure it out defensively. He's actually been a really good defender at third base this year. Finally doesn't have to worry about being a shortstop. You remember that?
Oh God, yes I do. So
Yeah.
stupid.
So now he's a good defender at shortstop. He's just not hitting for power at all. And it makes it it just makes him disappointing because it's like this guy could be a menace in the middle of that lineup. And if you had combined like his 30 home run power, his above average performance at the plate with a huge improvement in defense, the best defensive year of his career, he could be having a career season. But falling off a lot with the power. 389 slug from Eugenio Suarez is ridiculous.
Definitely so. So that leaves our next team, which I believe is the Tampa Bay Rays.
That's me.
Sure is.
Let's see. I should have worn my Rays hat. This one is difficult because the Rays just have. Oh no, actually no, it's not difficult. No, it's Wander Franco. It is Wander Franco.
Yep.
I mean, you could say it's like any of the injured starters that they've had because they're basically their whole rotation got injured. Their IL rotation is so good, but Wander Franco even if he gets out of this unscathed and it's like he didn't do any of that, just to have lost him for as long as they've lost him because of the scandal that's going on right now, even if he's completely not guilty, I think it's still really disappointing for this team to lose a guy that's your star player. And it's really difficult to talk about something like this, where it's just like there are these like social ramifications and to just be like looking at it from a pure baseball perspective, but to lose your star player that was there and was absolutely killing it when he was playing, to lose him because of an off the field thing that happened a few years ago. As much as I support everybody that it was able to speak out against him, I think it really is disappointing for the Rays because he was definitely like a driving force on that team. And maybe that's why they've fallen off so hard since the beginning of the year.
Definitely. And typically I would try to pick something else, but I really think that it needs to be echoed that this is the biggest loss that they possibly could have had. And it sucks. Like, it sucks to lose a young star of the game. It especially sucks to lose a young star of the game because of their own scumbag decisions. It sucks because this is a guy that, I liked watching him play baseball. He's a very exciting player. Now it's like, yeah, I have to hate this guy. That kind of sucks in and of itself. Deservedly so. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like, what he did is unforgivable. Even if it comes out, oh, he didn't do it to the extent, you're still messing around with underage girls. That's disgusting on every single level. Not cool. So yeah, Wander Franco, Dickhead of the Year award for that. So that leaves us two more teams to talk about, starting with the Texas Rangers, which I feel like the elephant in the room here for biggest disappointment is obviously the ace of their staff. So I'm going to talk about the deputy sheriff for the Rangers, Nathan Eovaldi, because Nathan Eovaldi is sort of the meme player that related to me at this point. So I feel like I have to talk about it. Nathan Eovaldi before his own injury, not just counting the man I feel like you're most likely to talk about. Nathan Eovaldi was probably on pace to win the AL Cy Young, I would have to say. I mean, he was going like 8 innings every start, the best innings eater in the game. He was leading in ERA at one point. I think he was leading in WHIP at the same time. He would be right there, and still potentially is, if he didn't come back. Like, if he didn't come back and have this stretch now where he's going like 2 innings to start and not being very effective. Nathan Eovaldi had a real claim to win the Cy Young. Like a year after I said he probably had a chance to with the Red Sox. So for me, that's the biggest disappointment, because I would have liked to have seen a full season healthy of Nathan Eovaldi at the level he started the season and carried it on for a bit, because that was prepared to be like one of the best workhorse starting pitcher seasons in recent memory. Like, he was on pace to easily go over like 200 innings. and be very effective while doing so. So I'm disappointed I didn't get that out of Nathan Eovaldi this year.
Yep, and that means you left me Jacob deGrom. That one's pretty clear. Just massive contract in the offseason, was supposed to be the headliner of this team. 5 years, 185 million for the right-hander, and when he did pitch, he was once again really good. 2.67 ERA in 6 starts, and unfortunately, he once again got injured, bit the bullet. He's got Tommy John surgery, and we probably won't see him until late next year. And yeah, I that one sort of explains himself, where it's just, if you know Jacob deGrom, you know that it's been the injuries holding him back. He has not made more than 15 starts in a season since 2019. And, the Rangers rolled the dice there and didn't come up right. But that's sort of you play with fire, you get fire, right? You get burned. That's what it is. You play with fire, you get fire.
Play with fire and you create fire. Yeah, I guess so. Why not? Okay, well, that leaves you to go back to back with our last team that we were to talk about.
Toronto. Let's see.
I've got my pick, but I want to see what you say.
Putting up the graphic. There we go. Yeah, I mean, I think
there's two big ones here.
Yeah,
I want to see where you go first.
I think for me, it's been Vladdy Jr. Yeah, he wasn't part of yours.
I thought there was a pretty big one on the other side of the ball, but
oh, really? Yeah, well, I'd like to hear. But first, I'll talk about Vladdy, and just, I mean, this is a guy that's somebody that's has ton of hype throughout his career, and he really set the bar high in 2021 when he hit 48 home runs, had a 166 WRC plus. And then last year, it sort of felt like he showed us what his floor was. He hit 32 home runs, 133 WRC plus. It was a big drop off, especially in the WAR department. He had less than half as much WAR. But it was like a massive fall off. And I thought, okay, well, that's like a really solid floor for a guy like this, 32 home runs and batting as well as he did while playing a pretty decent first base. But this year he's taken it down to another level, and he's honestly like a really just boring player with the way that he's played. He's got just 24 home runs. He turned it on a little bit recently, but just a 115 WRC plus, an F4 below 1 because he plays first base and he doesn't play it too well. But he's like a slightly above average hitter, which is, worthy for being on a major league team. But other than that, like, he does not bring much to the table. And it's crazy how far his star has fallen, and nobody's really talking about it, because it's like, okay, yeah, he's played the whole season. He's solid enough. He's a better than average hitter, 15% better than average. That's nothing to scoff at, but this is a guy that's supposed to be perennial MVP candidate, like in the same vein as like Ronald and Soto and Tatis. And he's just not there at all. And obviously he's much less athletic than those guys, but I think he was supposed to be the guy who was the best pure hitter of the bunch. And while he doesn't strike out, which is really cool, it's just not been there. And it's really just been a pretty mediocre season from a guy that's supposed to have a much higher floor than he's shown.
I think there's a pretty big one here. I've talked about one potential AL Cy Young guy from this year, and I think one of the front runners before the season started in the AL was Alek Manoah, and Alek Manoah just completely disintegrated as soon as the season started, and then now just refuses to accept the assignment to go to AAA to try to fix whatever he's got going on. And it's, I don't remember who it was, but it was on MLB Network, and he complained, and everyone gave him a bunch of shit, and it was like, okay, Matt, like, we never know how good Alek Manoah can really be, and if he'll actually go put the work in the gym. Like, if he'll go put the work in the gym and actually, like, he talked about it in like the lose some weight stuff. Like, that's kind of crazy, but it apparently speaks to the work ethic of Alek Manoah. Maybe, I don't know what his deal is, but he got sent to rookie ball to try to figure out his mechanics. He was so bad at one point. Now he got sent back to the minors, won't accept an assignment, so he hasn't reported to AAA. He's just not going to play. He's just done. Like, what's his deal? There's another one I feel like needs to be talked about, and it's crazy to me because I did not realize this until the other day, and I saw a tweet, and I wish I could find it right now. Matt Chapman has been one of the worst hitters in baseball in the second half. He's been awful. He's been
really unlucky.
He has been really unlucky, but he's not been great either, and he's not been nearly as good a fielder like as Matt Chapman should in the first place. There's a platinum glove guy at third that has sort of regressed a little bit to the mean. But I think the big one is Manoah, because like everyone sort of had these high expectations for him to sort of be the ace of this staff and the Blue Jays to be a juggernaut. And then Manoah sucks. And now his head's just gone and he just can't figure it out anymore. And he's just not even going to try. That's a little disappointing for me, because like it's one, you're not seeing the best of Manoah. We're not getting to see him pitch. And when we are getting to see him pitch, he sucks. And now he's apparently just not going to fix whatever is wrong with him. So what, are you just done? Are you just not going to play baseball again? Like, what's your problem? Because it feels like a maturity issue or something, and that's not good in the first place. So I'm disappointed to even see how he's handling this, because it just makes him look a bit like a crybaby over the whole situation.
Matt Chapman has a 97th percentile average exit velocity, 98th percentile barrel rate, 100th percentile hard hit rate. He's 80th percentile in outs above average. He's pretty fast. He strikes out a bit too much to have a high average, but he's got 15 home runs this year. And if we look at expected home runs, which is usually a good way to look at that. Oh, his expected home runs are only 18.6. How does he have a barrel rate that high and suck so much?
What's his launch angle?
His launch angle's fine.
I don't know.
His launch angle is 7.5. Like, he's a fly ball guy. You can look at the ground balls and they're not high. It's not like a Vladdy situation. I picked this guy as a guy who would have a breakout second half, because you look at the barrel rate and you're just like, he is one of the best barrelers in baseball. It's like Matt Olson, Aaron Judge, Matt Chapman. And then Matt Chapman is just like, oh no, I'm a 15 home run hitter, like a below average home run hitter. That's wild to me. A 17% barrel rate, 98th percentile, and he hits the ball hard. I think he might have the highest hard hit rate in baseball. And to be as bad as he is, I do not understand. And it's not even like it's being carried by that first month. It's like, if you look at the rest of it, he's there, and I do not get it.
He posted 2.9 F4 in like the first month and a half of the season. And
he looked like an MVP candidate.
In the entire second half of the season, he has 0.3 F4.
I don't get that.
He's got a 90 WRC plus in the second half. His K rate has jumped up in the second half. It's 31%. He's in 216, 314. The slug has dropped literally over.
That's what doesn't make sense to me.
And his OPS went from 807 to 672. And the ISO's dropped 50 points. Like, what happened?
Wild. Bonkers.
What happened?
I don't get it.
Don't know. That is all for our disappointments for the AL side. We'll do the NL side next week, just because we're going really, really, really long. But on that note, time to bring in the closer.
Yes, sir. Every episode we do a little rundown of a player's basically biography and let them close out the episode. It's always a closer. And this week we got Matt Capps, who had an 8-year career from 2005 to 2012, during which he pitched for the Pirates, the Nationals, and the Twins. He was drafted by the Pirates in the 7th round of the 2002 draft and debuted in September of 2005 versus the Reds at the age of 21. He tossed 1 inning, allowing 2 hits, 1 run. He didn't walk anybody, and he struck out 2. He pitched in just 4 games in his debut campaign. But his first full season featured a career high 80 2/3 innings pitched and his first career save. He began the year in a low leverage role, but by the end of the year, he was the team's top setup option. And then he began 2007 in the same role, but after just 2 months, he took over the closer role on June 1st and had one of the best seasons of his career. He had a career best 2.28 ERA to go along with 18 saves and a career high 65 strikeouts. His 2008 campaign, although successful, was marred by an injury that kept him out for 2 months. Even still, he recorded 21 saves and a career best 0.97 whip. In 2009, his success disappeared and he fell apart. His 5.80 ERA was the worst of his career, yet it still came with 27 more saves. That offseason, he became a free agent, and after signing with the Nationals, he might have reached his peak in 2010. That year, he put up a 2.47 ERA and a career-high 42 saves, which earned him his first and only All-Star appearance. And after the All-Star game, he was traded to the Twins as the Nationals capitalized on Capps' career season. He lost the closer role, though, pretty much as soon as the next year to Joe Nathan. And he took a step back on the mound that year, 4.25 ERA, still came with 15 saves. But then after a solid but unspectacular 2012, in which he had a 3.68 ERA and 12 saves, the Twins declined his club option, and he would never make it back to the bigs, despite that 2012 season being just his age 28 campaign. Wild. He wrapped up his career with 6.3 Baseball Reference WAR across 439 and 2/3 innings pitched, while striking out 319 batters with a 3.52 ERA, a 1.19 whip, and 138 saves, which is good for 104th all-time on the all-time saves leaderboard.
Definitely. Cool guy. I think he's like I think he's a play-by-play guy now. Yeah, he does Pirates. He does the Pirates radio now, I think. Play-by-play. So shout out to Matt Capps. If you like Pirates games, I'm pretty sure he does the Pirates games. That is all we have for this episode of Free Baseball, presented by the Athletes Hub. And since we are presented by the Athletes Hub, I'm obligated to plug them. So you should go follow them on Twitter at Athletes Hub to figure out whenever we are actually streaming the show. It would help a lot. You can also follow both of us while you're over there. Follow me at DVS Bird. You can follow Jake Crumpler at Jake Crumpler. Go to the website, theathleteshub.org, and read all of the articles that are over there. They're short reads. They're good for entertainment purposes stuff. It's like just stuff made by fans, sort of like this podcast, talking about all sorts of things. We have another podcast called Deep Takes from Three, with our friends Gary, Isaiah, and Devin, about basketball. Since that season is coming up soon, you can watch a bunch of stuff for fantasy football, all sorts of things, soccer, if you're into all of that. Yeah, they're great. If you want to read in-depth stuff and check out other stuff by this guy over here, check out all of his sites.
Me?
Yeah, that guy.
I am a guy, and I do be doing other things like writing for pitcherlist.com, where I also do a couple podcasts. The In the Pen podcast comes out every Friday morning. It's a bullpen podcast, as well as the First Pitch podcast, which comes out every single morning. And I do the Friday and Saturday and Sunday morning episodes. So go check those out. I also write for baseballhq.com. And you can find all of my work at crumplerbaseball.com, which still is in need of a update. It's been like 3 months.
Update your website so everyone can go check out all the stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I know that fantasy baseball season is winding down, but if you need that little push to win your league right at the end, you should check out all the stuff on Pitcher List because it is really good. I'm sort of battling for second, and I've lost it, but I'm trying.
Davis is going to beat me.
Yeah, first year ever playing, and I just read all the Pitcher List articles, and that's what's gonna get me there. But yeah, this is Free Baseball. Thank you for watching. That's all we have for this week. Peace. See ya. Go away now.